Hey, what is up? How's it going? Hey there. Hey, what is up? Arena Vision, Brian C. How's it going? So yeah, a lot on my mind here in respect to that ending of hey, good afternoon to you as well, Chris. How's it going? But yeah, anyway, a lot on my mind here for sure. After watching that mid-season finale a few days ago on Monday, and to tell you the truth, it really took a couple of days for me to come down from it. I don't know about you guys. I mean, I do kind of make a channel where I kind of like just like go over the show over and over and over again. So it's kind of hard when you have to sort of rewatch that final scene and just kind of think about all the various different angles and the sort of various different aspects of that ending. How's it going, Atugo? How's it going? Nice to see you. But yeah, again, a lot here. Yeah, and Bobby Hare in the next 7 weeks is going to be brutal. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, at Arena Vision, I'm still feeling it. Just shocked and devastation, like post-traumatic stress syndrome. I mean, that is something right there. It is again, yeah, it was tough, man, and kind of like again, I don't really know where to start in all of this, but I guess I'll just sort of get into it. But anyway, I was just kind of thinking back to that final scene that we saw in the finale, the mid-season finale of season 6, and I was definitely noticing how a lot of people online said like this was one of the toughest endings to a character that we've maybe seen in the entire universe of Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. What's up, Trouble Path? How's it going? But anyway, yeah, at Danny, the scene of Howard dying almost makes me feel sick. It's still stuck in my head. Yeah, and that's kind of the point. Hey, how's it going, Joe? But yeah, that's kind of the point I'm kind of getting at here initially, where kind of I didn't know where to start. So I want to just kind of start here. But in the very grand scheme of things, the crazy thing about Howard Hamlin's death in this storyline is that for all intents and purposes, like his death was basically just cartel collateral damage. That's the way I sum it up. If you really kind of look at what his death was, he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I mean, it's hard to talk about the scene without talking about Lalo, but of course, I don't want to get too into Lalo's plan and sort of speculating on that, but just Lalo's here. He wants to talk with Jimmy and Kim about something, and obviously, clearly, after him pulling out that gun, I mean, if Howard leaves, I mean, he's going to likely go to the police, and, Lalo can't have that, so he just shoots him with impunity. And the crazy thing here is that, to Lalo, this person is nobody. This is an absolute nobody to him. To Lalo Salamanca, this character is, if I can find the image over here, if I have it, yeah, here's the scene here, but again, I'm trying to find the image. But anyway, to Lalo Salamanca, Howard Hamlin might as well be Fred Whalen at the Travel Wire. He is an absolute nobody to him. He is someone who Lalo is going to kill with impunity. He's not going to think twice about it. He doesn't know who this person is. And of course, the crazy thing is to Jimmy and Kim as well as the audience is that we've known Howard Hamlin since all the way back in the very first episode of season 1. It's like we knew this person. So much has been developed about his character. We've seen all of his backstory of, 5.5 full seasons of this character. And we've just seen all the ups and downs, the ebbs and flows. And that's just kind of the crazy thing is that in the grand scheme of things, from the Lalo Salamanca's perspective and the cartel's perspective, he's a nobody. He doesn't know who this is. He doesn't care who this is, And it's crazy too. It's like in the grand scheme of things, I don't think we felt the same way about the death of Fred Whalen. I mean, a character who appeared in, I believe, one episode in the season finale of season 4 of Better Call Saul, entitled, oh my goodness, the winner. Excuse me, the name was slipping me for a second. But yeah, he's kind of the same thing, but of course it's much different for us as the audience because we've known this character, and it was definitely tough for sure. As Mike Ehrmantraut said in that Bad Choice Road speech to Saul Goodman, Fred wasn't in the game. And I feel like that's what just made, Howard's death so tough because even a death like Gail Bedecker, someone who was in one season, well, he was in a flashback in season 4, but he was in one season in season 3 of Breaking Bad, We saw him in a couple of episodes, I think about 3 or 4 episodes if I'm not mistaken that season, maybe 3 or 4, 3 or 4. And but at the end of the day, it was a tough death to watch. There was a lot of nuance to it. There was a lot of ambiguity to that death of Gail Bedecker. But in the grand scheme of things, he was sort of in the game. Maybe he was naive to what that meant, as Mike Ehrmantraut kind of implied. But with Howard Hamlin, what just made it so tough was that he was so far removed from this game. And, he came over here, likely he would have been stewing all day about what had happened, in that conference room at HHM. He had, thought about it after that grand embarrassment. And, that happened probably, I think it was early in the morning, if I'm not mistaken. Again, the exact time slips me of that meeting, but he probably didn't come over until very late at night. So he'd probably been thinking about this for hours, just, this whole thing that sort of ensued here, just thinking about what happened, sort of thinking about what he was going to say when he finally confronted Jimmy and Kim. And the last thing on his mind in the world when he went over to that house was someone coming in with a gun to shoot him in the head. That was the last thing on his mind. And again, I don't want to try to harp on Lalo too much here, but again, one of the craziest things about Lalo's character is that he's just so, by the time, Howard pulled out that, by the time Lalo pulled out that gun, it was almost too late. He had kind of been drinking. When he first came in, he kind of, said, "Who are you?" And he seemed very unthreatening. And, he just kind of was being a little bit lighthearted about it. But again, I think he just was kind of a deer in the headlights here. And in hindsight, we can all say, yeah, he should have, ran the hell out of there, or maybe even tackled Lalo, done something. Don't just stand there and wait to get shot in the head. But again, I think he was just absolutely, like the expression goes, a deer in the headlights. And it's pretty easy for us in hindsight, with days to sort of ruminate on it, saying, oh, what was he doing? He just stood there and allowed this, stranger to shoot him in the head. But, in the moment, without the benefit of hindsight, these situations are tough. And, so again, it was just again, in the grand scheme of things, though, I was kind of thinking about it and how, this story basically sort of wrapped up here with Jimmy and Kim. And basically after the Sandpiper, completion of this storyline, it is kind of true. There really wasn't any, it seemed like sort of, if Howard got out of that apartment, it's almost as if they would never sort of intervene, or interact again after this scene, in my opinion. And it really just seemed like just a very well-written story to the kind of completion of Howard's storyline, if that sort of makes sense. Where I really feel that, Saul is really starting to embrace this sort of criminal persona that he's now going to embrace, following whatever happens here after, this conversation that ensues with Lalo. And, irrespective of whether or not Howard Hamlin died in this scene, I really feel like HHM wasn't really going to be a part of his life anymore anyway. So, from a story writing perspective, I really feel like there wouldn't be really any need for, Howard to be as much of a main character as he had been over the course of this series, just based on the direction of where Saul's life is inevitably going to go based on the backstory of Breaking Bad. So from a literary perspective, I'm just going back, just the writing here of really sort of summing up Howard Hamlin's story. And if you watched, Patrick Fabian on that Talking Saul after the episode aired. I didn't watch it at the time, but I recorded and watched it later. It really just seemed like this ultimate conclusion to a storyline. It really just kind of seemed like it was time for Howard's character to be wrapped up and to just go out in that manner in this just unbelievable sort of story that just, where worlds collide, to sort of use a Seinfeld reference here to any Seinfeld fans out there, but to just have Jimmy's cartel world completely collide with the legitimate side of the law, which he had, come from initially, was just unbelievable writing, in my opinion. And despite the fact that it was really tough to see Howard Hamlin go for sure, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think it was time. It just, in order for, it's as I think even Patrick Fabian did a sort of an interview after his character died and sort of said it's kind of better to sort of burn out than fade away in respect to his character. And, I guess, if Howard Hamlin survived, it's true, we probably would have forgotten about his character. Well, I don't know if we would have forgotten about his character, but it wouldn't have as big of an impact in the story as, his death is now going to in respect to being a literary vessel. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, it was still really tough to see, his character meet his demise like that in Jimmy and Kim's apartment. But yeah, just what a culmination of Howard Hamlin's storyline for sure. And it's kind of interesting. I kind of viewed it as just cartel collateral in the grand scheme of things. Again, Lalo thinks nothing of killing this person again, and it's true. Like Fred, it's a great scene here in kind of this in the episode entitled JMM. Where Saul is, doing the whole witness tampering thing in court here with Lalo. And, he's asking, who's that family sitting behind them? And he's like, that's got to be the guy, the guy's family, Fred Whalen. And, of course, Lalo is just completely dismissive, doesn't care, true psychopath, unbelievably, just focusing on himself, again, couldn't care less about killing Fred Whalen. But of course, this was an entire person, this person had a backstory. Again, we didn't know it, but it had an unbelievable impact on his family for sure. And it is kind of just interesting to think about just all the sort of, it's definitely different, these tragedies, when you kind of feel like the character. Again, it's just fiction, of course, but still, like I said earlier in the stream, like, we've known Howard Hamlin since the very first episode of this series completely. And actually, I was actually kind of going back to this scene here in the episode entitled 1 Minute, during the shootout scene with the cousins. And again, I don't want to play it here because copyright is not good, but well, yeah, I don't want to screw up the copyright. But there's a great scene here, and I almost forgot about it, where excuse me. During the shootout scene that happens here with the cousins, as well as Hank, there's a scene here where after sort of, I think, Hank sort of escapes his car and is kind of hiding through the parking lot, and Marco's trying to chase him down. Marco stumbles upon this random guy right here, this random guy who he shoots and kills. And again, another just piece of cartel collateral damage here. A random character, a random victim, even more random than Fred Whalen, but just basically the same sort of death as Howard and Fred and this random person in this parking lot of this grocery store. Just a completely, innocent bystander who's killed as a part of this cartel collateral damage here. This big sort of, in the grand scheme of things now, based on the backstory of Better Call Saul, this all has to do with, Gus Fring and Hector Salamanca, and Gus Fring's, ultimate sort of plan to undermine the cartel. So it's pretty crazy, how, there's all these people get caught in the crosshair. And again, we thought, when this character died, we thought nothing of it. We didn't even know him. But of course, he had a sort of backstory too, and he had probably a family, and, for them it'd be, tragic and everything like that. But that's the crazy thing, is that, this collateral damage here for the cartel, this was not just some sort of, literal, extra, or a Fred Whalen, just a kind of a guest star who was, used as a vessel to move the plot forward. This was, again, a major character in the plot of Better Call Saul. So quite the different sort of level of just storytelling when you kill off a character like this. So yeah, it's again, at Prime Politics, Lalo is insane. Yeah, man, again, it's so crazy. I go back to that very first episode, which he appeared in the plot of Better Call Saul on screen, entitled Kushada, and you just see him grinning from ear to ear, and he just seems so non-threatening. And, he's in the cartel, but, he comes across this sort of, charming, personable guy, someone you'd want to, like, hang out with, have a beer with, as the expression goes. I don't really drink, but, as the expression goes. But, when you just sort of peel back the layers of the onion here, where you just find out he's a total psychopath here, who's just a cold-blooded killer, who just uses his, his charm and his, his good looks and his, his ability to be personable, to just lure you into a sort of false sense of security, and then to manipulate and use you. So again, it's just, the story writing here, again, when I knew, of course, that Lalo was going to have to appear in this series based on Saul Goodman's notorious piece of backstory, when this series was even materialized in the first place. And even though he didn't appear in season 1, we knew eventually he would appear for sure. But of course, I could have never imagined the sort of character that he was built up into and developed into by the creators over the course of this series. Just unbelievable sort of storytelling here that just absolutely exceeded my expectations for this character. Yeah, E-Boy Shrek, Rip Howard, indeed. So again, and I do want to talk a little bit about Jimmy and Kim's angle here in respect to what happens next for their characters. But, before I sort of, get into that, I kind of just want to take, a sort of grand look here at the sort of, story of Howard Hamlin, if I can. And again, before I get into that too, again, more sort of collateral damage here. Again, it wasn't the, it didn't have anything to do with the cartel, but again, 167 people dying as a result of the Wayfair 515 crash, that kind of dealt with, Walter White's sort of unintended consequences and things like that. So, again, definitely not the same. Again, when you read that number, it's almost like a statistic compared to you actually knowing all of those people. But again, that's what I feel like just makes the death of Howard Hamlin so tough, is that, you felt like you sort of felt like you knew him because he'd been on screen for so long and he was not in the game, as Mike Ehrmantraut said. So, really good writing by the creators, just to kind of sum that up. But yeah, sort of getting into just the, the Howard Hamlin side of all of this. Again, I was going back, and I think there actually is the sort of his big monologue here that he said to Jimmy and Kim. I might be able to play it if I'm not mistaken. I think I can play it. there's no audio here, so I may be able to play it for sure, but just an unbelievable sort of bit of, a bit of just dialogue here by Howard, and the way it's written, in my opinion, was it really just seemed like someone who had ruminated on this for hours after that big embarrassment that happened in the HHM conference room. He had just, after that happened, after everything that happened, that huge humiliation, he definitely sort of, I don't know if he went home or, where he went, but he definitely thought about it, and he just sort of figured out what he was going to say. And this dialogue here just really sums it up. And again, I think I can play it without getting in trouble. Again, I'm a little bit worried to play it, but just kind of in summing it up, he did talk about, like, what did I do to sort of deserve this, to deserve what you did to me? And he kind of did bring it up, like, really, like, he couldn't think of anything else besides what I sided with Chuck, too often. And then sort of saying to Kim, I took away your office, put you in doc review. In the grand scheme of things, that was pretty much it, what, he did to them. Just kind of going back to the sort of storyline of Howard Hamlin. Well, to briefly try to sum it up, there's a lot here to do like 5.5 seasons in just a minute or so. But, we first meet him. He's the sort of Lord Vader archetype, the head of HHM. He's Jimmy's adversary. It's then revealed to us over the course of the season, it's at least implied as much, that he was the one who wouldn't hire Jimmy after he passed the bar. He's the sort of, Lord Vader archetype. Definitely doesn't go the way we think it is for sure. Again, more just backstory here from the first episode. And then, of course, after the reveal happens, where it's revealed to us that it looks as though Howard didn't hire Jimmy when he passed the bar. Then following the Sandpiper Crossing settlement, which again, it goes all the way back to the first episode of the first season, and when Howard refuses to hire him after that. It's then revealed to us, of course, that he actually wouldn't be too opposed to hiring him, but it was all Chuck's doing. That pretty much sums up the first season of Howard Hamlin right there. Basically, sort of him not being, what we thought he would be. And of course, like in season 2, the big sort of, the big plot line was, as he said, he took away Kim's office as a result of that, commercial at Davison, Maine, that he assumed that Kim was in cahoots with Jimmy, where they went over Davison, Maine, Clifford Maine's head with the partners. At Just Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. What's up, Anton? Do you think we'll see more of Howard's wife and her reaction after the fact he's been killed? How will Cliff react? Love the videos, bro. Thank you so much for the kind words, Just Dan. And yeah, that's a whole another aspect of the storyline. Again, in respect to what's the sort of story that happens. Again, it's really hard to speculate on, of course. I think we will see likely, maybe, definitely Clifford Maine, maybe even Howard's wife at Just Dan. But, the big question is what is the story that comes out of Howard Hamlin's death? Does he just disappear? Is it ruled a suicide? And again, I was thinking back to the fact that, as he talked about in this sort of monologue at Just Dan, about how, like, yes, I'll be fine. I will come through this. I've come through way worse. And the crazy thing is, in the grand scheme of things, like, he did talk about, yes, this is more than a prank, but it really did kind of leave him standing. And as Jimmy, aka Saul, said to him, you'll be fine, Howard. And it's true. Compared to what happened to him, this is, yeah, it's a setback for sure. As he said, my colleagues will whisper that I'm a cocaine addict. I completely humiliated myself. This is very bad for my reputation in the short term, but in the grand scheme of things, in the long run, I'll be okay. I can come back from this. This is just sort of one event, and he said he would dedicate his life to sort of vindicating himself. But again, the absolute twist where Lalo shoots him in the head, again, you do wonder what's going to happen after that. So the big question is what is the story that happens after that scene? That scene that will take place in the premiere of part 2 of season 6, with that conversation that's going to ensue between Jimmy, Kim, and Lalo. And again, how will Cliff react at Just Dan? I think it completely has to do with the story as well. And again, I did think back to the fact that this is sort of the last memory that everyone is going to have of Howard Hamlin, of what happened there in that conference room. But again, kind of giving ahead of myself here, I kind of thought back to the sort of story that ensued of Charles McGill over season 3 of Better Call Saul, and his sort of reaction at the what was that, at the PPD hearing, or I think it was actually the bar hearing, in respect to what Jimmy's suspension should be in respect to his law license. And that was a big embarrassment for him. And another big embarrassment is what happened with when they were clients of Mesa Verde and that big 12-16, 12-61. A lot of embarrassments too, and even his sort of big send-off at the very end, to kind of get ahead of myself here, but if I can find it, I think I have. That sort of big send-off that Howard gave to Chuck at the very end of season 3 here. This sort of a lot of sort of big embarrassments for him, if you will. But in the grand scheme of things, he was still viewed as a very sort of honorable person. His reputation was, still very, outstanding with HHM. And even if he for all intents and purposes committed suicide, like maybe they will to do to Howard Hamlin. So in the grand scheme of things, maybe Howard doesn't come across as this sort of crazy person whose reputation is tarnished, and then he passes away. Hopefully despite the fact that he passed away, hopefully there'll be some sort of vindication of his reputation as well. But again, what happens to HHM? You'd imagine that it's gonna, it looks pretty dire, based on just the fact that they don't have any founding partners anymore. Howard was the head of the whole company. Again, that's a sort of side story that I don't know if we're going to get a sort of step-by-step display about. But again, I think we'll have to wait until what happens in the premiere of season 6 before we get a complete answer to that. And I really appreciate the super chat at Just Dan. But yeah, and again, kind of going back to the story of Howard Hamlin here again, to sort of do like the big thing that he did to Kim. Again, I made an entire video about it, but again, she kind of took exception to him sort of like white knighting her, to use her words, trying to save her from Jimmy's bad behavior. And again, other than that, I guess the sort of plot that ensued here in this episode when he took away her office in respect to the Davis and Maine commercial, and how she sort of punished Kim for Jimmy's actions at Davis and Maine. And yeah, other than that, obviously he didn't deserve to die because of that. And in the grand scheme of things, he said, what did I do to deserve this? Again, is it because I was born into wealth? My dad helped me get where I was. I'm such a big asshole. Again, it's true. You really feel like there's no way he deserved any of this. In the grand scheme of like corporate culture and, things to that effect, you should just read accounts of Steve Jobs. He's sort of, revered as this sort of titan of business, but my goodness, some of the anecdotes that are told about him just being a sort of ruthless, sort of, cold-blooded killer in air quotes in the business world. So again, Howard Hamlin seemed like an absolutely tamed down version of that. And it's actually kind of interesting too, because I heard Patrick Fabian do another interview. This was, I think this was prior to his death, maybe a couple seasons ago, but he basically talked about how of course Jimmy was going to hate this guy. He was everything he wasn't. He was tall, he was handsome, he was personable, he was charismatic, he was, unbelievable at his job. He was just a winner. He was just an unbelievable salesman as a lawyer. He was just an unbelievable corporate attorney. And, he was everything that Jimmy wasn't. And of course, Jimmy kind of, hated him to an extent. I think a lot of that hate sort of dissipated when he found out that he really wasn't the one who barred him from working at HHM. But again, I think there maybe been a lot of, Will K jealousy, a lot of jealousy of a character like Howard Hamlin for sure. Very jealous of someone who could exceed in that world. And maybe Jimmy just felt like, while he had his own, he was charming and personable in his own way, it wasn't in the same way as Howard Hamlin. So again, just a sort of very sort of, just interesting to sort of look at the backstory here. And that was basically the plot of season 2, season 3 with the sort of, the chicanery episode in respect to, Chuck trying to get Chuck trying to get Jimmy disbarred and sort of Howard's role in there. And of course, that eventually leads to the big sort of story here where he tries to ostensibly force Chuck to retire because of the insurance premiums and all of that. And, eventually he sort of, blames himself for Chuck's actions for sort of forcing him out at the end of season 3, buying him out, sort of calling his bluff. And we definitely see in the next season after he commits suicide, after Chuck commits suicide, we definitely see the great impact of this event on Howard Hamlin, where, he's truly, completely caught up in this, the fact of his maybe, personal responsibility for what Chuck did. Of course, very ironic, that piece of dialogue in respect to Jimmy saying to Howard, I guess that's your cross to bear. And again, if I'm not mistaken, this was probably the first time he ever went to Kim's apartment. And of course, the second time went much, much poorer for him for sure. And again, that sort of very ironic line about that's your cross to bear, Howard. Again, that painting right there, I mean, all of the sort of unknown foreshadowing at the time. And again, even the creators didn't even have that story written, but it's just pretty crazy to just think about all the sort of like foreshadowing to what happened, what will happen based on looking back at season 4 of Better Call Saul. And again, yeah, just to kind of sum up his story in season 4. Again, after that, he definitely has some ups and downs. Again, prior to the something stupid flash forward montage scene, HHM is suffering some setbacks. He's definitely going through some personal things. We see him going through therapy, suffering from insomnia. That's basically his story for season 4. Of course, at the very end, he says HHM is back and he's getting his life more together. And then, of course, in season 5, he's searching for inner peace. He offers Jimmy the job, and what reward does he get for that? He gets bowling balls thrown at his car. He gets a prostitute sent to his lunch with Clifford Maine to embarrass him. That's what happens to him. And then finally, Jimmy calls him out. Talk about hubris, for goodness sakes. I mean, just going back to that speech at the Bernalino County Courthouse where Jimmy basically compares himself to a god, saying lightning bolts shoot from my fingertips. You have no idea the worlds I travel in. And again, some just ominous foreshadowing again where, worlds would eventually collide in season 6 of Better Call Saul. And then after that, we then see, Kim interact with him, in the, I believe in the final episode of the season finale, and then they sort of plan their whole plan against Howard Hamlin, and the sort of rest is history. We saw what ensued over the course of the season, which eventually led to the unintended consequence of Howard Hamlin's death. So, again, it is pretty crazy. I mean, of course, and what's crazy here is that, I was thinking ahead to season, at David Griffin 14, what are we going to do for 7 weeks? But I was thinking ahead to those 7 weeks for the premiere of season 6, part 2. And I was thinking to myself, after sort of, Howard has met his demise and definitely didn't deserve it whatsoever. And I was thinking, who do I root for now in respect to this series? Because I think about the sort of living main characters now of Jimmy, Kim, Mike, Gus, and Lalo. And again, I know the audience just absolutely loves to root for Kim and, wants to see Kim have a happy ending. But again, I mean, it is really kind of hard to view Kim in the same light after all of this. And what's pretty crazy is if Howard didn't die, I'm pretty sure the audience would kind of think nothing of it, and it's like, oh, it's no big deal. I mean, it is just kind of small pranks. As Jimmy said, they're gonna, you're left standing, you'll be fine, Howard. And in the grand scheme of things, he would have been fine. But again, just to sort of see like Jimmy and Kim, it was almost just a sort of nihilism, really. When they just sort of, picked on Howard here, decided to cut him down a peg, really for, no reason. I mean, other than very selfish motivations. Yeah, I mean, Kobe-Wan Kenobi, yeah, Kim is she comes across as, much more, self-centered than before, for sure. And, obviously she didn't intend on this to happen, but when you play with fire, sometimes you get burned, as they say. And, it's really kind of hard to, It's hard to see Kim in the same light after this, and really when Howard came over to confront them at the very end of that episode, they basically just, were very dismissive, said, Howard, you have to leave, basically saying, just get out, we don't want to deal with you, you don't have any proof, leave us alone. And, it is, again, it's a lot of nuance here for sure. And a really well-written story, absolutely. And again, just like as I sort of just basically summarized everything that was displayed to us about Howard Hamlin's character, I mean, it's funny. I mean, people kind of, I guess, viewed him as just an antagonist, or maybe even just, I mean, for lack of a better term, just kind of like, I don't want to say the word I'm going to say, but just kind of an asshole, just kind of like all this. I think it almost comes across as like, people were just almost like kind of jealous of this guy. Seriously, like he was just kind of playing the hand he was dealt. He didn't choose to, look the way he did, or he didn't choose to, have these sort of, abilities that he was able to achieve. I mean, he was just living his life. And, I don't think he deserved any of this for sure. It's pretty nuanced for sure. I don't think anyone thinks he deserved it. But again, just very interesting story writing where it definitely makes this whole story that ensued really kind of makes us view, at least in my opinion, Kim in a very different light. And, I know everyone roots for Kim and they want her to have a happy ending. But if you kind of, again, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but if you go back and if you watch that Talking Saul with a Ray Seahorn, I just don't see Kim having a happy ending whatsoever, in my humble opinion. And yeah, just kind of going to kind of thinking about where this story goes for Jimmy and Kim. Kind of speaking of which, I was going back to sort of the story of Saul Goodman, and literally in the very, I mean, just to juxtapose what we just saw of him witnessing Howard Hamlin getting shot in the head. I mean, obviously, I think the very, very first scene we ever see of him is, this commercial that he makes, this sort of late night television commercial that's playing in Jesse Pinkman's apartment in the episode entitled Better Call Saul. But it's pretty crazy, like whatever happens next, it will lead to him making this commercial right here and having it on late night television. And the very first scene we see of him is him right here with Brandon Mayhew at MDC. Or maybe, Metro Detention Center. Yeah, probably that's where he is. And it's just crazy to think about how in the world does that story get from there to here. Again, it's so hard to just square that circle. But I did kind of think back to that sort of conversation that Mike Ehrmantraut had in the episode entitled Bad Choice Road, where, one of these days you're going to wake up and you're going to realize you didn't think about any of it, none of it. And that's the point you remember, that you can forget. And it's true. I mean, we saw Jimmy go through that shootout in the episode entitled Bagman, and it had an unbelievable impact on him for sure. But eventually, he was able to forget about it and move on, despite the fact he was feeling those things. And it's kind of interesting to think about how, he's already experienced violence like this for sure in that episode Bagman during that shootout. But again, I don't know if it's like unproven, but there's no way Kim Wexler has experienced violence like this. At least we don't think she has. So, again, you do wonder what the sort of impact of her is going to be compared to Jimmy. But it's just crazy, just kind of going back to what this character is going to become. Just the way he sort of, I mean, I know some people have said, the way he sort of acts, maybe this is a sort of coping mechanism or something to that effect. Irrespective of that, his sort of actions in his comedy might be a sort of coping mechanism. But the more interesting question that I have for sure is that, or at least the interesting point is that despite everything that already happened in the desert in Bagman with Howard Hamlin, despite all of that, despite whatever is going to happen in the final 6 episodes, eventually Saul Goodman is going to make this decision to partner with Walter White and apparently just do it all over again. He knows what it's like to get involved with drug dealers. He knows the sort of dire consequences that can come from this. But despite all of that, despite the fact that he and Kim are probably not going to be together anymore, I mean, you can say initially he was sort of dragged into the sort of Walter White thing and sort of forced against his will, but, to help Brendan Mayhew and everything to that effect with James Edward Kilkelly, et cetera, et cetera. But no one put a gun to his head, to sort of use that sort of metaphor. Maybe it's, not a good one here based on what just happened, but no one forced him to go into Walter White's high school and partner with him. He could have, gone about his, fairy merry way and never, got involved with these drug dealers again, but he wanted to do it again. And again, it's this sort of thing of why is this the case? Again, it's something I'm still sort of grappling with for sure. Why does he make this decision despite everything that's going to happen in the 6 episodes to come? And it's just something that I can't wait to see. He just seems so different compared to how we've seen him so far. So, at Shubham Raj, coping mechanism is the only thing I am hearing. If you're talking about what explains the sort of difference in demeanor, maybe, I kind of like that, 5 fingers, no waiting at Nathan Kelly. And again, I think I may have the, again, this is sort of a video I made in the past and it has just a lot of clips that are sort of, kind of have to do with this. But again, it's just sort of to see this demeanor here, just to go back and watch this scene, the episode entitled Full Measures, of him interacting with Mike here, and just the sort of, very lighthearted nature of everything that happens. And you would imagine that Mike is going to get involved in this plot with Lalo as well, but it's almost as if, this is a coping mechanism where he's sort of putting on this sort of persona to sort of forget about everything that happened in the past. And I do wonder if that's going to be the sort of way they describe all of this. So at Joe Blow, I did see the suit up ad for the teaser for the next half season. I did see that, where it sort of ended with Gene Takovic's gray shirt and a black visor from Cinnabon. I did see that. But yeah, that again, the coping makes a lot of sense. But again, I wonder why he decided to partner with Walter White after all of this. That's the sort of big question I have, for sure. And again, trying to look for another clip, might be in a different video, but at Blu-ray Addict, did you watch Slip and Jimmy animated series on AMC Plus? No, I did not. I'm actually not surprised at all that they released that on the same day the episode aired. Of course, they were going to release it during the break when there was nothing else on. I haven't seen it. I'd love your take on it. I mean, is it more of a Saturday morning kids cartoon, or is it more of a cartoon sort of geared towards adults? That's definitely something I'd like to know. Again, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'll watch it again. I don't know about that, but maybe it's possible. I don't know if anyone's seen it, if they can kind of sort of give me an insight here about whether it's marketed towards children or adults. At Relax and Sleep, I tend to agree. I think that I would kind of say that teaser sort of reminds me of, or makes me think to the fact that, that the story's going to end with Gene. I think that's kind of what they're hinting at. So I would tend to agree at Relax and Sleep. So at David Griffin 14, again, I kind of talked about that in a previous review about how I think what makes them redecorated is more Francesca's doing. How, when she had to be in that waiting room with all the sort of Albuquerque criminal underworld, with everyone coughing and smoking and sort of, with their knives and sort of just being all violent. I really think that sort of experience makes Francesca realize she wants to be behind a thick layer of glass separate from his clients. So I kind of think it's maybe Francesca's doing that causes them to redecorate that office. But unbelievable scene there. I believe that was in the episode. Was that in Black and Blue, if I'm not mistaken? It was either Black. I think it was Black and Blue. I think. Or maybe it was Hit and Run. It was Black and Blue Racks and Grind. But the scene when they're in that office, I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. I love that scene absolutely, when Kim walks in and we see the waiting room done in Francesca's style of interior decorating. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But yeah, to kind of get into one more thing here that I definitely want to talk about in respect to sort of Saul's sort of I guess, where his story goes from here, at least in respect to his personality. But yeah, there's a great webisode here called Live Saul Cam, where we see him in his office, and he's definitely acting the exact same demeanor as Saul Goodman, even when there's no one around to sort of see him. And yeah, pretty sort of interesting scene here for sure. You can definitely go back and watch it if you want. And he's definitely this scene was absolutely implied here that he was having sex with a prostitute in his office. So again, I know before this season, a lot of people you really wanted to have Kim be that silent partner, a sort of behind the scenes figure with the Saul Goodman. But again, I just don't see it after this. I really don't. I just feel like there's no way that these two can have a happy end. Like, I know in that sort of teaser for part 2, Saul said after all this a happy ending, but again, I don't know if that, again, it's sort of ambiguous here. I think maybe the very final scene will sort of have a sort of happy ending kind of tone to it, in a kind of odd way, that very final shot of, Walter White with that shot, that overhead shot that pans out very slowly, despite the very dark nature of the Breaking Bad ending, it did kind of have a sort of happy ending-ish sort of, vibe to it, especially with that song that they overplayed there. So, Beetle, Saul gets a happy ending in his office. That is too funny, man. But yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't think there's any way for these two characters to have a sort of happy ending. I don't think Kim's a part of this office. I know that was a very, palpable, if that's a word, palatable theory prior to this season, how Kim was a behind-the-scenes figure. But again, I after what happened at the end of Plan and Execution, I don't think it's going to happen. I just absolutely don't think it's going to happen whatsoever. And yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see the sort of coping mechanism theory in respect to Saul putting on this sort of character when he's at work. And again, another great scene here. I think this was in the episode Hermanos. I'm not really sure, like off the top of my head, but there's a great scene here where Saul's talking with Jesse, and I even heard the creators kind of talk about this scene, how maybe it was unintentional or whatever. But if you go back and rewatch the scene again, I don't want to play it here in the stream, but he really comes across as Jimmy McGill in this scene. Instead of his sort of Saul Goodman persona, he definitely sort of his sort of just demeanor and intonation definitely reminds me of sort of Jimmy McGill talking with Kim Wexler here, sort of him like maybe accidentally putting his guard down or something to that effect. So yeah, again, a lot of nuance here for sure, and it was kind of interesting. I did go back and watch that Talking Saul, and they kind of teased like what's to come for the final 6 episodes. And again, they basically said there's no way you're going to be able to predict what's going to happen. That was kind of their big tease. So a lot of story to tell in 6 episodes, and what really feels like so little but so much story. But yeah, it's definitely something to think about for sure in respect to where Jimmy's going to go. And of course, in respect to Kim, again, it's too open-ended to speculate. I really feel like we could have really sort of, made our best effort to try to guess what was going to happen to Nacho and Howard. And I have a pretty damn strong feeling we'd be incorrect. I mean, maybe if you said, they both die, okay. But again, the exact circumstances, I think that's pretty damn impossible. So, and actually, it's pretty interesting. Not to sort of, I don't think this is too big of a spoiler here. It's not really a spoiler. It's just kind of me sort of reading into it. James Egan, thank you so much for the super chat. Do you think Kim will leave Jimmy? The movie they are watching before Howard arrives is about a girl leaving their husband for a new life. Again, I started to do research about that movie. When I saw that scene thank you so much again for the super chat. I really appreciate it. But when I saw that scene of that movie they were watching, I definitely wondered, what is this film? Does it have symbolism? Again, it's a film, I think, from the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, again, I don't know exactly what happens to Kim for sure, but I think there's no way she's a part of that. I'm pretty damn sure that there's no way she's a part of that office. I just don't see it. I just absolutely don't see it whatsoever. And again, I really feel like that Ice Station Zebra name is sort of maybe, Saul longing for the days of Wine and Roses when they were sort of, with the ability of hindsight, sort of going back to when they were living that life. And maybe he was sort of naming it after a sort of fond memory in his life, sort of thinking back to sort of simpler or better times. But, I just, I definitely think, her leaving, I think it's possible. I'll definitely have to do more research on that film from the 50s. I think it's definitely something I've wanted to sort of look into after I saw that scene. But yeah, I mean, you wonder how Kim gets out of this. I mean, you wonder how Kim gets out of this for sure. And again, thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. But sort of on those same lines there, excuse me, James Egan. I was watching Talking Saul, and it was kind of interesting. They were sort of talking to Patrick Fabian about his final scene that he did, and just sort of, it was sort of a sort of inside baseball thing where they were kind of talking about just the logistics of the acting and everything. So I feel like you have to be more of an actor to be sort of more into it. But it was kind of interesting. Jimmy did mention sort of, again, maybe he wasn't supposed to mention this or whatever, but I think we didn't give too much away. But he basically said like, hey, how about a shout out for your stand-in who had to lay there for like hours, after but for a second I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense, because I mean the scene was so short. I mean, he wasn't on the floor for that long. But then I thought to myself, what he's probably talking about is how in the very next episode, they're gonna have that conversation there in that apartment, and Howard's going to be there lying on the floor. So I guess they didn't make Patrick Fabian lie there for hours while he had no lines. I guess it would make sense that that they would have a stand-in. But anyway, yeah, the point I'm trying to get at is they're going to have this conversation. It's probably going to be very similar to what we saw in the episode entitled Bad Choice Road, where Lalo maybe even sits on the couch, very calmly, like, we're going to have a nice little chat here, something to that effect. And of course, Howard's going to be right there on the floor the whole time. So yeah, you would imagine what comes next is definitely going to be very telling for what happens to Kim at James Egan. So, at Chauncey Holt, Ozark ending was a disappointment. I've never seen the show, unfortunately, so I'm sorry you didn't like it, though. The ending, that's too bad. I mean, no one likes to not like an ending. I've never seen it. Maybe I'll watch it at some point, but adjusting, yeah, I didn't mind. I thought it was pretty well done. The Talking Saul, I enjoyed it. It's pretty short. It's like not including commercials. It's probably around a half an hour, maybe like 40 minutes. It's pretty well done. They talk about the show. They talk a little bit about filming. So yeah, it's good. It's a good watch. Definitely kind of an interesting to sort of get sort of different perspectives about the show. And actually, come to think of it, I'm not really sure here. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but again, maybe they talked about a scene we haven't seen yet. But Giancarlo Esposito was interviewed in like a sort of, they did a bunch of pieces throughout the thing that they kind of intertwined as like B-roll, I guess. But he talked about a scene where Gus Fring had a body double sleeping in his bed. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't think we've seen that. If I'm not mistaken, have we? There wasn't a scene of him having a body double, so he may have been talking about a scene that we're going to see in the part 2 of season 6 with the sort of home court advantage and the plan A that they were going to do. Maybe have a body double sleeping in his bed, thinking that he's home alone. So I don't know if they accidentally gave that away in his interview there. I guess spoiler alert. Again, it's not really a spoiler. I was just kind of my interpretation of it. But again, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't remember us seeing a scene of Gus Fring having a body double in his bed. We have seen a body double, not in his bed. Oh yeah, we've seen a body double for sure. I mean, in season 4 of Better Call Saul, he definitely had a broken leg or ankle or something where he couldn't walk. So all the walking scenes was the body double. But he did have a body double. In what episode did he have a body double? Oh, that's right. That's right. He through the tunnel. That's right. Is that right? I do remember now that very short scene when he was walking to the Ryman's house. That's right. Again, it threw me off. Yeah. It wasn't in his bed though. But again, in the point I'm trying to make is that in the that dialogue that Mike gave to Gus at that elementary school or whatever, he talked about how we need to go with Plan A. We need to make Lalo think that you're home alone. So maybe he's talking about a scene to come where the body double will be sleeping in his bed and Lalo will think it's Gus. Maybe that's what he was referring to, but yeah, great call there. That's right. I believe in the episode entitled "Hit and Run," he walked by the body double in the tunnel. Yeah, I was thrown off because he definitely said sleeping in his bed in Talking Saul, and my head went to I don't think we saw that scene, so maybe that's to come. So yeah, that's right. He did walk by him in the tunnel though. If the chat kind of reminded me in the episode entitled "Hit and Run" when he's walking to the Ryman's house. So yeah, good call. Yeah, appreciate that to everyone in the chat who shouted that out. Yeah, thank you to everyone who said that. Again, missed the yeah. So at Nick Russ, thank you so much for the super chat. I hope Howard is drinking with Chuck somewhere right now. Happy, yeah, man, yeah, for sure. Again, it was tough to see, man. Tough way to go. And again, they kind of sort of parallel to Chuck and even the Nacho. I mean, both of their deaths, I mean, both of them, I guess, kind of, I mean, it's kind of dark to say, but Nacho and Chuck kind of went out on their own terms, I suppose. I mean, it was kind of their decision to do what they did, but Howard was not ready to go. I think that's what makes the death even more tragic than Nacho, to tell you the truth. I mean, Nacho's was just an unbelievable sort of conclusion to his storyline as well, just unbelievably tragic as well, just the level of sacrifice that was displayed in his storyline. But again, Howard's at Nick Russ is kind of on a different level, to tell you the truth, with him just sort of being at the wrong place at the wrong time and him definitely not wanting to go out like that, not by a long shot. So yeah, that was tough, man. That was tough to see, and yep, him and Chuck for sure. And yeah, I mean, they kind of did talk about that, about how it's possible that he had been drinking a little bit too, so that probably lowered his definitely made him not as aware of his surroundings maybe when Lalo comes in with that gun. I mean, I think Patrick Fabian at Nick Rust even did an interview and talked about how when he saw that gun, he was definitely knew there was danger, but by the time he could he even said he'd been drinking, he was sort of preoccupied with something else, but by the time he sort of realized the danger, it was too late. So at the ref, thank you so much for the super chat. I'm still so sad he went out without a chance. Yeah, definitely sort of went out, didn't want to go like that. Definitely wasn't ready to go. Yeah, it was tough, man. I mean, just an unbelievable level of story writing in the grand scheme of things. Just the unintended consequences of Jimmy and Kim's actions. They really just thought, it's no big deal. It's we're not even. Saul even says to Howard, "You're gonna be fine. You'll be okay. You'll be fine. We did nothing to you. This is almost a prank." Of course, Howard said it's more than that. It took planning and everything. And it is kind of true, his sort of words when he kind of talked about how, like, you two are a pair of soulless sociopaths. You did it for fun. You got off on it. You took joy in the suffering of someone else. And you think back to that sort of high school psychology question about you pulling the train switch, where basically Kim was talking about how you tear down one lawyer and you help all of these people with your pro bono practice, so therefore you can somehow justify your actions. But again, it's definitely a little bit different when it's just a theoretical sort of responsibility for this person's demise, instead of you being maybe even legally responsible for their death in some capacity. Again, maybe not. Again, I don't know. I mean, I do wonder about the sort of criminal charges that could come to Jimmy and Kim as a result of, like, Howard's death. In that respect, I don't know if it's going to get that far. I mean, obviously, Lalo's not going to jail here. He's not. He's definitely not willingly going to jail here. But yeah, it's just a lot to think about for sure. At James Egan, how much of the Breaking Bad timeline do you think we'll see? Again, not as much as I thought for sure. I mean, we only have 6 episodes left, and we're still over 4 years away from it. Again, the only real sort of necessity I feel is that, is the scene involving Francesca and Saul Goodman in the episode entitled "Quite a Ride." That's basically the only one I feel like we need to see based on what we've already seen. There's a necessity for that, if that makes sense. But other than that, again, I've really started to sort of change my perspective. I've just changed my perspective of the fact that this show is likely about the distant backstory of a Saul Goodman as opposed to the immediate backstory. At Stu Sasser, thank you so much for the super chat. Is there an episode 8 next week? Unfortunately, no, it's not next week. It's in 6.5 weeks from now. Just under 6.5 weeks. July 11th. So, yeah, it's pretty damn brutal, man. Again, and I wonder, I was thinking back to what's his name? Thomas Schnauz. He did say that this episode wasn't intended to be written as a cliffhanger, like a season-ending cliffhanger. But, I think he even said as much, that it was, I don't know if he's being serious or not, but I think he said, very coincidentally, though, it just happened to be a really good one. But it is kind of crazy to think about if he is being truthful, and we were supposed to have 13 episodes consecutively with no break. I mean, talk about just a crazy cliffhanger. I mean, very random episodes, if you will. Like episode 3 and episode 7 is when we have character deaths of Nacho and Howard, respectively. So, yeah, to tell you the truth, I kind of wish we were going to see this story continue on a Monday. I really do. But, it is what it is. 7 weeks. I mean, maybe, again, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll gin up interest for more fans. Maybe some people will stream it and then watch part 2. Who knows? At Blu-ray Addict, I hope we see Bill Burr. And me too, my friend. Me too. That's for damn sure. So yeah, I mean, pretty damn crazy. I mean, this story for sure. I mean, with what happened to Howard, and just to think where all these characters will go. And I guess this kind of clip right here. I guess he was kind of doing reverse psychology here about that Jimmy McGill, he'll be the death of me, and he kind of was at Patrick Fabian. And when he made this video here, and he kind of made his eyes all wide, where he was kind of, if I can sort of fast forward to spot here where he kind of I don't know if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. But I guess it was kind of it was kind of reverse psychology, I guess, by Patrick Fabian. Kind of gave it away, kind of didn't. Kind of the same with this that photo that they tweeted out, that Bob Odenkirk tweeted out. I get, literally, this was from the scene when he died. I mean, he's wearing the same tie. His tie is undone. I guess this was from the sort of red spot they had to make it look like the exit wound or entry wound. I'm not sure, but yeah, they gave it away. In hindsight, they absolutely gave it away. They gave it away, but they didn't give it away. It's kind of like there's knowing and there's proving, as they say. So you're kind of just interesting in hindsight to sort of think back about it. So. But yeah, definitely an unexpected character death for sure. And again, to kind of think about the sort of Lalo Salamanca aspect about this, I mean, I've kind of thought about that a little bit as well, to tell you the truth. Um, Before I get into Justin Cruz, do you think we'll see Kim and Lalo in the Gene timeline? Again, Kim maybe at Justin Cruz in respect to the sort of all the Nebraska foreshadowing, the sort of happy ending thing. Maybe you can see that. I can definitely see a sort of very like a devastating separation in the Better Call Saul timeline, and maybe some sort of I wouldn't say like rom-com happy ending to the Gene Takovic timeline, but I guess it's possible. But again, with Lalo and with everything we've seen, with all the foreshadowing of Gus Fring's gun in the Super Lab, and just all of the dialogue that we've heard over Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, it's really hard to square that circle of Lalo Salamanca surviving Justin Cruz for him to be able to even be in the Gene Takovic timeline. But at the same time, I mean, after seeing him over the course of this season, where in my book he's on the same level as like Anton Chigurh and like Hans Landa as evil geniuses in famous movies, you have to remember both Hans Landa and Anton Chigurh, they both didn't die at the end of No Country for Old Men and Inglourious Basterds, respectively. Again, they didn't sort of win. It was very ambiguous what happened to them, with even though Hans Landa didn't get killed, and he got his land on Nantucket or whatever, he still had that, emblem shaved into his forehead. And, Anton Chigurh, he didn't die in the end, but his arm was broken, and there's no way that's going to heal. He's not going to be able to be a superpower, evil genius Superman with that broken arm, and, he never asked for help, and, there's no way to set that arm properly by yourself. You have to go to, like, a doctor to do that. So very sort of ambiguous endings to both those characters, and part of me really kind of hopes we see that for Lalo Salamanca. I mean, I feel like a sort of death of his character would be pretty satisfying too in many respects, just based on everything that he's done over the course of this season. But part of me wants there to be a somewhat ambiguous sort of conclusion to him, where he doesn't win, but he doesn't lose either. I know a lot of people don't like those ambiguous endings. People kind of like the good versus evil, and like maybe the general public kind of just wants to see, a conclusion to it. But I don't know. Part of me kind of wants to see it as akin to Anton Chigurh with Lalo, where it's kind of ambiguous with his character, where he doesn't die, but, he doesn't win either. So to kind of just sort of cement him as this sort of, next level evil genius, as opposed to someone who gets it in the end. It's almost, he's cheated death so many times, it's almost hard to just see Lalo dying, to tell you the truth, at Justin Cruz. And it just, it's hard for me even to picture it, because he's been just such an absolute sort of, next level sort of supervillain that, it's just kind of hard to tell. So, it's hard to tell what's going to happen to him for sure. I almost don't believe he can die after what he's done so far. He's kind of got like 9 lives, so he seems invincible. So that's, again, what is Lalo's fate in my view at Will K. Well, I will get to that, but at the ref, do you think they will stage his death as a suicide? Yeah, I mean, that seems, again, I'm actually gonna to kind of I'll get involved in that. I was sort of starting to pivot to what's like will happen next for sure at the ref. I really appreciate the super chat in respect to what comes next in respect to this, but it kind of has to do with what Lalo sort of has to talk, like what Lalo sort of has to tell them, and sort of what they do after that conversation. I really appreciate the super chat at the ref. Really appreciate the support. Definitely sort of, that definitely seems like a logical continuation of the storyline that I've seen a lot of people sort of speculate on online. And to sort of go back to Will K's point about like what's the fate of Lalo in my view, again, what I think will happen, again, I feel like I kind of just talked about it, about how I kind of hope it's a sort of ambiguous open-ended fate, but I could also see a very definitive fate to it as well with him dying. Maybe in the lab at Partido Nacional. Yeah, that's definitely possible for sure. But yeah, at the ref with the super chat, do you think they will stage his death as a suicide? Again, that kind of goes back to the sort of Lalo Salamanca sort of aspect of the storyline, and again, it's I've been kind of thinking about it a little bit. I think in my review, I think I kind of I've even almost changed my perspective of what Lalo's plan is compared to when I reviewed the episode. And again, I'll have to go back and watch a couple more times the sort of Lalo component of the previous episode. But yeah, to tell you the truth, When we know that Lalo went to his apartment after he saw that cockroach. Again, to sort of sum up the sort of plan we saw in the previous episode, we know that he came back from Germany after he talked with Casper. It was definitely implied that, Casper told him the location of the industrial laundry. And again, I've seen a lot of people on comment like, wait a minute, how did Casper know where the laundry was? They were blindfolded. They never saw, they never went above ground. Like, how did they know where it was? But again, if you go back and watch the scene where they're dropped off in the desert, you can clearly see the Lavanderia Brillante written on the side of the truck. So again, I mean, when you're in that much pain, I guess, he can recall that information. So it's definitely clear that, they saw those trucks, and it's likely he gave that information to Lalo. And again, we don't know how long it took to get back from Germany and for him to concoct that plan. But, of course, Lalo being an absolute evil genius, he's going into the sewer and sort of viewing the Lavanderia Brillante from the sewer because, if he was on the surface, everyone would see him. They definitely Mike's crew didn't expect him in the sewer system, and to just sort of get back to the continuation that led to Lalo getting to Jimmy and Kim's apartment, he's about to call the Sandpiper. What is it? What did he do? He made that video confession about to Don Eladio where he says tonight's the night I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna kill all the guards and I'm gonna show you the proof of the structure. Say what you will. Gus will have his story. Blah blah blah. But ostensibly, he's about to make a call to Hector after that, I believe, and he notices that the line is bugged. But after that, again, he gets really mad. I guess, I don't know why. I guess he needed to maybe tell Hector before he does what he does. I think that's why he's so upset, because maybe he knows that he can't do it without the blessing of, again, it's a little bit confusing, the sort of continuation there where he says his spiel in the camera to Don Eladio. Then he's about to call, did I say Sandpiper Crossing? He's about to call, Casa Tranquila, where Hector lives, and he hears that the interference on the line, and this causes him to hang up and smash his chair on the wall and say, clever Chileno, very, very clever Chilean, Gus Fring, bugging the line. And after that, he then, I believe again, I have to rewatch it, but again, he either sees the cockroach first, or he makes the call first, but then I don't think he sees the cockroach first, but does he? Again, I forgot the exact continuation. I'll have to sort of go back and watch it. But he may have seen the cockroach first, and then he makes the phone call to Hector and basically says, the Chilean is very clever. I couldn't find any proof. I'm going with plan A. I'm just going to go in there and just, guns blazing and just shoot the crap out of him. I think it was after he saw the cockroach, but of course, irrespective of when the cockroach last, okay. But so he makes that phone call. But again, I do wonder why he got so upset after he realized the line was bugged and he had to change his plan. I mean, I guess he could have. Maybe he knew that the fact that someone called Hector, like he knew that the fact that just because he called, he knew that his plan was busted because even there he knew that something was coming, and he knew that he couldn't go through with that initial plan because even if he didn't tell Hector the laundry plan, that Mike knew or Gus knew something about the fact that Lalo was coming because no one else would call Hector besides Lalo, maybe. Again, oh, that's true because they verified his voice for the first time. Yeah, definitely true because they knew he called for sure at Ryan McFadden. Again, that makes a lot of sense. So he definitely had to change his plan there for sure, and he couldn't go into the laundry and go with plan A. And then, he decides to call back and says, I'm going to go, instead of plan B, I'm going to go with plan A. But again, it's kind of like, was that a complete lie or was he serious? He was probably lying for sure to get Gus off guard. But of course, after that, he sees the cockroach. And again, there's a lot that I don't even know if Lalo knows, because after Mike plays that conversation to Gus, he says, I removed all the guys watching the soft targets. And one of those soft targets, of course, is Saul, is Kim's apartment. So again, and we don't know if Lalo knows that. So again, it's kind of a what was I going to say? It's still a little ambiguous here. We don't really know what his sort of plan is. It's kind of hard to read into everything until we finally hear that conversation that he's going to have with Jimmy and Kim. So, yeah, it's... Yeah, at the neighborhood, that's a great point. I think this was the moment that Lalo realized that Gus only knew that he was alive, but was heavily prepared for his return. That's a great point right there, man. Unbelievable point. Yeah, I think the fact that he was bugging the line, maybe it made him realize, I think that's great. It made Lalo realize that Gus probably knew that he was still alive and knew that he was prepared for whatever he was going to do in respect to, the laundry being just way too heavily armed. So yeah, really great point there at the neighborhood. I think that's spot on. But again, when he called Lalo, when he called Hector, excuse me, about I'm going to go with Plan A, we don't know whether or not I think he wasn't telling the truth for sure. But again, it's like what is going through his head? What was his initial plan? Like why is he lying? What's his actual plan? And then of course he sees the cockroach and then thinks of Saul Goodman and then decides to go to Saul Goodman's house to have a nice little chat, as he said. So but anyway, yeah. So again, while we don't know the sort of step-by-step continuation of Lalo's plan, again, I kind of changed my perspective of what Lalo's thinking. Again, when I first did my review, I kind of thought maybe it had something to do with Michael, but in hindsight, I kind of talked myself out of that because in the grand scheme of things, yes, Lalo knows who Michael is, but there's no way that Lalo has any sort of inclination of any connection between Saul and between Saul and Michael. So in hindsight, I'm really starting to think that he's gonna go after the reason why he's going after Saul. All goes back to this. It's all gonna go back to Ignacio Varga because we have to remember if we go back to I guess I don't have the video pulled up, but if we go back to season 5 of Better Call Saul and the episode entitled "The Guy for This," when they first meet, Nacho was the one who initially introduced Saul to Lalo. He was the vessel by which Saul met Lalo. Lalo met Saul, excuse me. And of course, now he knows that Nacho betrayed him. So again, I don't know what Lalo's thinking per se. I don't know what sort of he thinks that Saul maybe had to do with anything. But I mean, maybe. I mean, he's gonna go. He is a sort of a loose end. Maybe not loose end's not a right word, but again, he's gonna just question him. He wants him for questioning because of his association with Ignacio Varga, who ended up betraying him. So again, yeah, as Matt D says, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. Maybe Lalo sort of accuses Saul of having some responsibility in all of this. Maybe he accuses Saul being on the in with Ignacio and Gus. Maybe. Oh, who knows? That would actually be. I don't know about that, but again. Saul doesn't know who Gus is in season 2 of Breaking Bad when he's talking with Walter White, so it's a little bit hard to sort of square that circle. But again, the only connection that Lalo has on Saul is his connection to Nacho Varga. I mean, on the top of my head, there's no way that Lalo has any idea that Saul would know Michael, like none. So again, I don't see that, and also with Michael likely being a very necessary component, seemingly, of cleaning up this mess after Howard Hamlin's demise, I really feel like it's going to be more Ignacio that Lalo questions Saul about. I don't know. I've heard people say like maybe he wants to hear that story again, like last chance to tell me what actually happened in the desert. Again, he could double down saying I don't know anything. I mean, there's no way to tell, that he's not telling the truth. But again, I think it has to do with more with Nacho than with Michael for sure. Just sort of questioning anyone who had any association to any of this. That's kind of what Lalo's doing. He just wants information. He wants information in regards to anyone who was even tertiary. Well, that's I don't know how to say that. But tertiarily, sort of connected to this whole event that happened at his hacienda. So that's what I think for sure. So at Nathan Kelly. Saul and Kim basically convinced Lalo to go back south to Mexico where he got ambushed. He probably thought they were involved in it. Interesting, Nathan Kelly. Yeah, again, yeah, I think I kind of said that. I think you articulated it much better than I just did. But yeah, I think for sure. I think it has something to do with Nacho and Lalo wondering if Saul was involved somehow. And yeah, I think that's maybe where he put 2 and 2 together. Like, what involvement did you have? And yeah, I think Nathan Kelly. That's a great way to put it. That's a great way to summarize it right there. And that definitely seems to be what Lalo wants to talk to Saul and Kim about for sure. Again, J Saul gonna rat out Mike again. Seemingly he would, but I don't know how Lalo would have any idea how he would have any connection to Michael. And he could just be a soldier of Gus Fring. Again, I don't know if he would know any sort of association to Saul, to Michael. And again, with Mike being such an important role, having such an important role in the story, outside of what's going to happen here, I just feel like, I think maybe because of continuity it can't come up, but I could be completely wrong. So, like Peter Gould said, there's no way to predict what's going to happen. So again, I think I even heard some people theorize that Kim is going to somehow get involved, is going to get involved in the Super Lab plot somehow. But again, I mean, I can't see it right now, but who knows? I mean, that's kind of where my mind went on, like, crazy storylines that could ensue as a result of this story. So yeah, at Mendoza's Coyote, I've also seen that theory as well. Lalo will use Jimmy and Kim to lure Mike and his men somewhere. Again, you think so? I think so. At least that's definitely a possibility. That kind of goes to the sort of big premise of how in the world do Jimmy and Kim get out of this situation? Where again, once Lalo finds whatever information he has for him, it just it would seemingly be that he would just kill those people too and just leave the mess there and leave. He could just kill all three of them, leave them bleeding there, and just drive away. And by the time anyone noticed, he would probably have made it his escape. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. But again, I don't understand what Saul says to get himself out of there. Maybe I've heard, maybe Lalo uses Kim as collateral, maybe, but it's getting pretty damn dark for sure. And again, I have no idea where this story is going to go. I wish I did. I really kind of wish we were going to see what was going to happen on Monday, but we're going to have to wait quite a while till we see what happens. At Relax and Sleep, I think we just again, I think we cracked the case. Kim and Lyle run off together. Yep, no, I think we cracked the case, man. At just Dan, Lyle is behind all of this. That's funny. At Matt D, that's a great point. I mean, of all the sort of open-ended characters that we had heading into this season of Ignacio Varga, Howard Hamlin, Lalo Salamanca, and Kim Wexler, two of them have already met their demise. And, a lot of people were sort of, pushing Lalo towards that fate as well, just based on the canon of Breaking Bad. So, again, Kim Wexler, again, maybe. I mean, maybe she does. I mean, who knows? It's definitely possible. I mean, it would be quite the sort of the twist of fate there if Kim, doesn't make it out of Better Call Saul alive. But again, part of me thinks she's gonna be the one to survive. Maybe she's the sort of Jesse Pinkman of the story after all, and not Ignacio Varga after all, like some people surmise. So yeah, who will Francesca's lawyer be in Breaking Bad? It's a great point. Alex Wolf. Part of me thinks that Kim is the one to survive here. I don't think she's going to be a part of this practice. No, I don't think that's going to happen at all. After what just happened, I just don't see it. At Alex Wolf. But yeah, again, who else could that lawyer be? I mean, is it going to be Deputy Director Oakley? I mean, that seems kind of like anticlimactic. So it definitely seems like that's going to be Kim. I mean, again, who knows though? Maybe there's more sort of twists and turns here. So yeah, it's Cinema Dave. Maybe it's Oakley again. I don't know. Again, he's a district attorney. He's not even. I don't even think you can even hire a district attorney as your lawyer. So yeah, at Matt D, kiss pro bono career goodbye for Kim again. That's another great point that again I was sort of thinking about is that how Saul, as I sort of talked about earlier in the stream, is gonna get to the point where he's gonna put all of this behind him and he's gonna partner with Walter White in the future. He's gonna be able to sort of live his life and partner with Walter White. If I can find the clip here somewhere. Um, Again, having a hard time finding the clip, but yeah, he's gonna make that decision to go to JP Win and say I want to be a small and silent part of this. He's gonna have that decision, and despite what happened to Howard Hamlin, he's gonna be able to put all this behind him, and he's gonna be able to make that decision. partner with Walter White. But at the same, but the point I'm trying to get at here is with Kim. I mean, can we really see? Okay, I was kind of indirectly responsible. I sort of played God here, and it accidentally led to the death of Howard Hamlin, someone who was a sort of mentor of mine of my professional life. Now I'm just supposed to sort of help people and go about do my pro bono practice and pretend like everything's okay after witnessing what I just witnessed. And I sort of justified all of this, how, I'd be tearing down one lawyer, but I'd be able to live with it. I mean, yeah, I just, again, I believe Matt D said that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, kiss a pro bono career goodbye for Kim. Yeah, I just don't, I don't even know how she continues after this. Again, I speculated in my last video, maybe I'm not giving her enough credit. Maybe she will be a more like a Saul Goodman type who can just, put all this behind him and become this character. And that the crazy thing is he will. He absolutely will. As Mike Ehrmantraut said, you realize that you can forget, whatever sort of traumatic thing happened to you, you can put it behind you and continue to live your life. And he's going to be able to. He's going to make these commercials. He's going to, maybe have this coping mechanism of this sort of crazy personality that he has. He's going to partner with yet another drug dealer, despite the fact he knows the consequences of all of this. And it just sort of adds so many different layers to this sort of storyline. Where initially, when I watched Breaking Bad, you think, okay, this was just like a regular lawyer, and he just, he started to bend the rule of law a little bit. And again, it was just a little bit like he would put his toe over the red line, and then he'd just go further and further and further. And then eventually, he sort of realized he was in too deep, and he sort of made a big mistake. But again, it's completely different now, and just knowing everything he did prior to teaming up with Walter White. I mean, there's no way to say he couldn't expect what was coming. He absolutely knew what were the consequences potentially of what he did here. So, yeah, it just completely changes my. I mean, it's so true what Peter Gould said about after watching season 6, you're gonna see Better Call Saul in a completely different light. And that's it's definitely how I view it now for sure. So. More Clifford Main's son speculation in the chat. That is hilarious. And yeah, kind of going back to the sort of Sandpiper Crossing thing again, Jimmy and Kim are entitled to that payout, and of course Kim is married to Jimmy currently, so I guess they're both legally entitled to it as husband and wife. But again, you wonder where that $1 million goes. I mean, does it go to Saul Goodman's office? Does it go to him building that house? Again, it's just I don't know where that money goes, and again, a lot of it a lot of it has to do seemingly with Kim's reaction to all of this. So it's a lot to ruminate on in these next 6.5 weeks. And man, talk about a cliffhanger, man. Like seriously, what a cliffhanger at the end of part 1. So at Kirill Sol Temka. I can sort of read the Russian, but I don't know. I don't really know what it means. I'd do better if you wrote in English, but anyway, yeah. So it just I was kind of thinking back to the cliffhanger that was to conclude part. I don't know if I might have mentioned this in my previous I think I kind of mentioned this in my previous video, but yeah, this cliffhanger, I mean, just unbelievable. It might have been that's what you were saying. That's what you're saying. Nice, that's what you're saying. Okay, I appreciate it. Spasiba Bolshoi, Kirill, for the compliment. but not a White Rose. If you're going to that, so. But anyway, yeah, just kind of going back to just the conclusion here. Again, I mean, in terms of, I think someone asked earlier. Again, I forgot who asked it. I apologize, but just kind of how this episode ranks in respect to all Better Call Saul episodes. I mean, it's up there for sure. It's definitely up there. So I mean, character death episodes definitely stand out for sure. And based on just everything that I talked about, it's just with just, Howard Hamlin not being in the game and the fact that his character had been sort of built up for 5.5 entire seasons. And, the fact that, we had known this character so well, I feel like, it just made this like episode just stand out so much, compared to other episodes. So, sorry, I got distracted by the Russian in the chat. Very, very completely threw me off here. Wasn't expecting the Ruski Yazik, so got a little bit confused there. So missed my train of thought there. but anyway, yeah. But yeah, just the way they built up Howard Hamlin. I mean, like I said, I'm trying to think back to other major character devs that concluded seasons. I mean, there was the Wayfair 515, if I'm not mistaken, crash, or was it 505? That one, I mean, more people died there, 515. But again, I mean, it wasn't as impactful as just a character like Howard Hamlin, who we felt like we knew from the very first episode, and even with what's his name. With Gail Bedecker, excuse me, my God, I completely slipped my mind. But with Gail Bedecker's death, I believe he was only in 3 episodes that season, if I'm not mistaken. And so again, he, his death was pretty impactful and was very ambiguous. And Walton Jesse killing Gail Bedecker was definitely different than killing a character like Tuco. And so definitely completely different sort of perspectives there in respect to a character death like that compared to Howard Hamlin. But yeah, just, I would have to say, and again, long story long, I'd have to say that, this episode's up there. And again, at Sir Torchington, yeah, Bagman is a flawless episode. Again, it's very hard for me to succinctly sum up why I like that episode so much. I definitely did an entire review on it where I feel like I got my points across there. It definitely kind of, again, it takes a long time to sort of put those thoughts out there. I think that episode, the review is like maybe a half hour long. And it was, I kind of, it was a post editing. It wasn't like a live review or anything. But yeah, that was an unbelievable episode for sure. Bagman definitely had me on the edge of my seat. So, at Sir Torchington, if you're talking about Bagman, yeah, I tend to agree. It was just, unbelievable. Just, again, and so much of it just had to do with just Mike and Saul wandering through the desert. But, it was just, so interesting, and just had me on such the edge of my seat, the fact that even though most of the episode was just 2 guys lost in the desert, it was just, it was just unbelievably suspenseful. And just the ruminating that they had to do about their lives and about Kim being in the game. And even that great scene of Kim meeting with Lalo at MDC. I mean, there was just so much going on there. I mean, yeah, that was really when Worlds started to collide for the first time in this series. When Kim met Lalo at MDC. And just to see the sort of, human suffering that Saul had to go through for that money, of him being dehydrated and, sunburns, and having that cactus needle just, just the puncture wound in his toe. I mean, just in that speech that Mike gave about what it's for. Yeah, Bagman was pretty great. So, oh yeah, Sir Torchington too. Yeah, I thought you were talking about plan and execution. That's why I asked if you were talking about Bagman. But yeah, for sure, and it's crazy. I mean, it's kind of crazy, the sort of HHM law angle of the story. It's pretty much over. I mean, the rest of the way, it's basically just about the cartel has basically completely infiltrated the storyline. Before this season started, like, that was one of the craziest things about this, is that Howard Hamlin was so far removed from the world of the cartel. I mean, HHM was just a sort of separate entity. HHM and Charles McGill, that storyline that had nothing to do with the cartel whatsoever. When we saw those scenes intertwined over the course of various episodes, like, episodes like Sabrosito, where you're getting the story of the cartel and you're getting the story of HHM. And it's crazy to see worlds collide like this, and you just never saw Howard Hamlin go this way, where the one moment where he crossed paths with the cartel, he met his demise. So just, yeah, pretty unbelievable in sort of interconnecting of the story. So yeah, at Francis Ray, Plan and Execution was the episode I was waiting for. Yeah. For sure, a lot of build up, really was wondering where the story was going. I think a lot of people anticipated Howard Hamlin's death for sure, but I saw more theories about like maybe Kim and Jimmy's plan directly having a consequence as opposed to sort of, on the outskirts having this consequence. I think people more surmised him having a sort of adverse reaction to cocaine, or not the cocaine, the whatever that drug was. That's at least what I thought, but I definitely didn't think, Lalo shooting him in the head, that was like the furthest thing from my mind for sure, so. Relax and sleep. I think Kim and Jimmy should frame the Kettlemans for Howard's death. Again, I don't see that happening. I feel like that's kind of a funny thought there, but like truthfully though, I don't know how they get out of this situation. I really don't. This is like a sort of it's like a next level cliffhanger. It's like how in the world do they get out of this? I'm still thinking about it. I still don't know. So I really don't know. Why does Lalo keep them alive? Just so many questions I just keep thinking about. So. At man, Stan, the Kettlemans have been through enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Again, I wouldn't say they're sort of innocent. I mean, they were sort of ripping off old people with the tax return fraud, where they were basically stealing from elderly people who really couldn't afford to lose out on their tax refund. And pretending they were doing it there, coming across again, kind of a little bit of a sociopathy a little bit, where you're just kind of being all nice, but you're stealing from these people. So, again, definitely was kind of funny where, when they sort of painted themselves as victims and said we didn't deserve any of this, even though they were the ones who embezzled like $1.6 million taxpayer money from Bernalino County. That's the part where Kim really sort of drew the line, said, all right, enough carrot, time for the stick. So. But yeah, just again, I don't know how Kim sort of comes back from this. I really don't. This seems like something that would just absolutely destroy her personally. So again, Saul again has seen violence like this already in Bagman. He's sort of seen this. He was able to come back from it. I mean, Mike did say that you can forget, but this just seems like I think of maybe every single contingency in the world that maybe Kim maybe planned for in respect to this plan against Howard. This thing wasn't even remotely close to on her mind, so I don't think she planned for it whatsoever. And again, I can only imagine the sort of fear that they're going to sort of experience. Again, this story isn't even over yet. They still have to have this conversation with Lalo before all of this, before the story even ends. So again, at White Rose, I see Kim using the vacuum filter service, the vacuum cleaner repair service. Yeah, I've seen that theory. Again, that seems a little bit too sort of happy ending for me, sort of akin to Jesse Pinkman, where we see him driving off into the Alaska wilderness in El Camino. Again, I don't know if I see that. Maybe she does. Maybe she just goes home to like Nebraska. I don't know. Maybe she doesn't even need the sort of new identity thing. Maybe she just goes back home. She just leave. Again, she's so young though. I mean, the actor is like 50 years old, but her character's what, like 36? So I mean, the character's so young. I mean, what happens to her? She has so much like life ahead of her still after this, seemingly. So what is she gonna do with the rest of her life? Again, it's like I forgot who said, but the mic fell there. But someone said, rip to the pro bono practice. It's like how does she go about her regular life? And she has so much more life to live. So again, definitely something that I need to think about for the next 6.5 weeks for sure before the premiere of part 2. And also, I imagine they're going to release a trailer. I imagine, or maybe like a longer. I mean, they released that very short teaser of the black and white scene, which was like 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and also we saw that very short teaser of the suit up with all the different outfits that Saul Goodman wore. But if they do release a trailer again, I don't know how they're gonna do it. Like I bet it. I don't know if they're gonna release a full trailer. I wouldn't imagine, because you would feel like it would just give away too much of the story with that huge cliffhanger. But I would imagine we'll maybe get a little bit of a longer teaser maybe at some point in time. So that'll be kind of cool to see if and when they do that. So. And again, yeah, add Robert O. Leckie. Yeah, I definitely tend to agree. I mean, I feel like this actually happened in life before, where someone kills someone and then they try to pin it as a suicide. Again, we're kind of getting in a pretty dark place here, but I'm pretty sure forensics can figure all this stuff out. I mean, I feel like if you could just pin it that way, when again, maybe if it was like at Howard Hamlin, like if they had nothing to do with it, but again, it's super suspicious when someone who passes away. They're usually the very first people they question are the people closest to them. So yeah, I don't know how they get out of this. I really don't. Add Zach the first, yeah. Again, Walter White and Jesse Pinkman are going to appear, but again, that's kind of the last thing on my mind. Uh, After this scene, again, it's like it just seems so unnecessary. I mean, it is going to happen based on the creators, but again, it's really the furthest thing from my mind at this point in time. So pretty crazy to think about how the fact that they're going to appear somehow, maybe in the Breaking Bad timeline, maybe in the present day timeline. So and yeah, again, it's kind of like speaking of Jesse Pinkman. I go back to when Emilio's body decomposed, chemically decomposed in his bathtub, and it ruined his house. Again, it's like that. I go back to that quote he said, like, "How am I supposed to live here now? My whole house smells like toe cheese and dry cleaning." And again, I was thinking, how does Kim Wexler live in this apartment? And again, like, say what you will about how dark the scene is, but as a literary vessel, it kind of seems like a sort of literary vessel to Saul moving out of this apartment and eventually getting to that house that he's going to live in. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. I mean, we have to remember in 6 years from now, he's going to flee to. It's crazy. I mean, we're in 2004, and in literally right around 6 years, maybe even less than 6 years, all of the music's going to be over. When the music's over, it's crazy. In less than 6 years, Saul Goodman is going to be in the Ed the Disappears basement, fleeing to Omaha, Nebraska. So again, he hasn't even moved into that house yet. He's still driving a brown Ford Taurus, for goodness sakes. So again, you wonder how Kim even lives in this apartment after what happened here. So many unknown sort of questions here heading into the part 2 of next season that I can't wait to see unfold. I mean, at capital H, you say, in my humble, in my opinion, Howard must disappear in the desert. Where do the diamonds? Yeah, that's great. That's a great question. Like, where do the diamonds come into play? Another sort of thing we need to see. The diamonds, the phone call Francesca's going to make, the lawyer that Saul gave her. And again, yeah, I imagine Mike's going to come into the storyline. I mean, we saw him clean up Jane's body in season 2 of Breaking Bad. So I would think that. Excuse me. I would think that Mike would maybe have something to do with cleaning up Howard's body. But again, I could be completely wrong, even though that seems like the most logical continuation of the storyline. At Justin Cruz, when do you think we'll see Gene return? Again, I would assume the beginning of part 2, but Thomas Schnauz also said that this season was originally written to be 13 episodes straight, so who knows? Maybe they won't. Maybe part 2, maybe episode 8 won't be Gene Takovic after all. Maybe we'll have to wait till the very last episode. Who knows? Maybe the very last episode will just be Gene devoted. Yeah, at B Horning too, when Kim is a sociopath like Howard said. I mean, a little bit. I mean, just the absolute sort of nihilism in respect to her tearing down Howard and really just not thinking anything of it, sort of treating him like an absolute pawn. Again, maybe she didn't think it was a very big deal, sort of embarrassing someone and humiliating them and ruining their reputation and sort of, taking them down a peg. Maybe she didn't think it was a big deal, but it's kind of interesting to think about. Again, like I said, a lot of people root for Kim Wexler, but I really feel like perspectives are going to change after what just happened at the end of during the mid-season finale of season 6. That's right, after Second Coming of Bess. He didn't dispose, he cleaned up Jane's body, sort of made it look like a suicide. He sort of cleaned up all the drug paraphernalia and made it look like she just asphyxiated, where Jesse had, there was plausible deniability to him having anything to do with it. That's right. And then, of course, the coroners took her body away. So yeah, you wonder what they're going to do. Again, that's a drug overdose is something that, they've seen before, and she had a history of sort of drug use, so it made a lot of sense. But a gunshot, I'm pretty sure, don't some states, I think all states, I mean, all gunshot wounds that are taken to the hospital have to be sort of, the police have to be notified. So if you call in someone's dead and there's a gunshot wound, the police are definitely going to come. And, Mike said to Jesse, if the police come, I don't. Did the police even show up? I'm not even sure. He said they may come, they might come, they might not, depending on how slow of a morning they're having. But a gunshot wound, they're definitely coming for that. So like I said, I just don't know how to get out of this. I really don't. That's right, capital H. I woke up, I found her. That's all I know. Again, it's hard to kind of. Again, I don't know if they can pull that on Howard Hamlin, but we'll see. So they definitely can't. Just Dan, just leave it there. It'll be fine. Play through it, as they say in golf, huh? At Dylan 2 times, I promise Kim will disappear through Ed. Yeah, I guess it is possible, but again, I just don't see it for some reason. I feel like it just parallels Jesse Pinkman too much, and I don't know. I feel like all the endings we thought would happen to Nacho, and I really feel like we didn't see either what like both things. I feel like weren't sort of mainstream predictions. So again, I don't. Yeah, I guess it's possible, but I don't know. I have to think about it more before I had a more sort of you know concrete opinion on that of the sort of Ed the Superior thing. I'd have to think about it a little bit more. So yeah, Dylan 2 times. It could be foreshadowing. It could be foreshadowing. Her pulling out she was the one who pulled out the card out of the book. It's possible. It definitely is possible. So, but then again, I mean, we saw Nacho pull those IDs out of his safe, and you could be like, oh, that's foreshadowing that he's gonna sort of go through Ed the Disappearer, and he didn't. So I'm sort of I just can't just get behind that theory at this point. Not yet. I mean, I could be wrong. You could be right. I could be absolutely wrong. I can't wait to see what happens. But again, I just don't see it at this point. Me personally, I'm gonna need to sort of think about it some more. Ooh, so yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't believe we have to wait 6.5 weeks for this story to continue. It's pretty brutal. But yeah, it is what it is for sure. And like I said, again, I don't think Howard's not wasn't a bad guy at all. And it's pretty fun. I saw Patrick Fabian do an interview there about how like again, a lot of people's view on like it was people definitely tended to side with Jimmy and Kim more over the course of this season, more so than they did with Howard Hamlin. But again, it's crazy how when all was said and done, he kind of went from the, someone who we thought was going to be the antagonist of the show to be someone who ended up being the most morally upstanding characters in this entire series, ostensibly. So, pretty crazy I mean, unbelievable writing. I mean, just unbelievable writing in respect to that, just 5.5 seasons of where this character went and where he came from, where he ultimately went, all of the sort of surprises in respect to his storyline, just unbelievable writing by the creators. And yeah, I really it was a tough story to see for sure. But after sitting on it a couple days, it's still sort of tough to think about how Howard went out like that. But in terms of story writing, it was just unbelievable. Definitely even kind of seemed necessary in many respects to the sort of mainstream, like the sort of legal side of the story sort of ending. And if Howard didn't die here, he probably would have just sort of faded into obscurity in respect to the sort of storyline with the show ending. And he absolutely burned out instead of faded away. So yeah, again, I feel like I kind of made my point here in this stream. But yeah, it was tough to see. Can't wait to see what happens with Jimmy and Kim. After this, can't wait to see what Lalo wants. Probably something to do with Ignacio Varga. And, Mike and Gus are another component of this as well. With, again, I think Mike and Lalo coming to blows seems pretty inevitable. Again, maybe it comes across as too obvious and maybe I'll be wrong. But to me, I feel like that storyline is going to inevitably sort of, have its breaking point. I think a push is going to have to come to shove eventually. We have that scene of Gus Fring's gun in the super lab, which, still, still is a sort of Chekhov's gun premise, which we'll likely see the continuation of. Maybe, who knows? I mean, that scene of Lalo, that theory of Lalo getting buried in the South Wall, maybe that does happen. Maybe Lalo does get buried in the lab. Who knows? It is possible. Or maybe he gets a more ambiguous ending as opposed to the sort of unambiguous sort of conclusion. So yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I really enjoyed speculating with everyone. I definitely loved hearing everyone's perspectives. Definitely, like I said, always learn things in this chat. Definitely sort of perspectives I don't initially sort of see for sure. But anyway, yeah, I'm going to try to put the content out there as much as I can in the future. I didn't want to make an entire video about what I'm going to say. But yeah, again, this it's actually kind of coincidental where this summer is actually pretty damn crazy for me in my normal life. I actually wasn't able to upload videos for almost 2 years. And a lot of things that have been kind of going on for like three years of my life are kind of like, coming to a head now this summer. So again, I'm gonna try again. It's actually kind of coincidental how this mid-season break is happening. But yeah, irrespective of that, I'm gonna try to put out as much content as I can. We'll see what happens with just the videos and the streams in the weeks to come. Definitely we'll talk about things as they come if we get more information or stuff to that effect. But yeah, so yeah, I really appreciate for everyone for tuning in. I'll see you guys around. Not sure when that's going to be. We'll see. I'll be trying to put out content as much as I can. But yeah, really appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. And have a great rest of your evening. And I'll see you guys around. It's going to be a long 7 weeks, but we'll make it for sure.